Hi everyone, good evening. Wishing all of you a very happy Holi. Of late, the news which is hogging all the headlines has been the electoral bonds issue. Now, we all know donating political parties is not a new thing in the country. It has been done forever. And why India? It has been done forever across the world. In some places, it's called political lobbying and it's legal, like in US and Canada. In some places, though it is not legal, but it is done through other means. Now, in this video, we will cover the electoral bonds, do a deep dive into the data. We will look at the data from a larger perspective of business, why political donations are necessary. We will also study a few top donors and how these donations compare to the rest of their financials. And finally, can analyze the company a little more and can this electoral data add a few more decision points to our investing decision. So with this, let's get into the video. First, let's get into the electoral data as released by the Election Commission of India. Now, just yesterday's newspaper was full of top donors and who donated to which party and so on and so forth. Now, without getting into the nitty-gritties of it, the list contained a lot of names, a few expected names, a few surprise names, and a few expected omissions also. The donation data as such tells me a simple thing. BJP today has roughly 60% of the seats across the country. And the election data also tells me the same thing. That most 60%, 65% of the donations went to the BJP. Let's ponder over the question why political donations are necessary and why I believe that electoral bonds should be the only way to donate to political parties. Now, from a businessman's point of view, if I've got policies which are more helpful in my business and which will help me run my business smoothly, which will help me expand, I would obviously support those policies. And who makes these policies? The politicians. So if by donating to the politician who is pro-business or who's promising me policies which are pro-business and business-friendly policies, I will try and ensure that the playing field favors me as a businessman. And there's nothing wrong in it. This has been the rule of business forever, survival of the fittest. And if donating to political parties means that I can do my business more easily, more freely, and I can grow it much faster, I will surely donate. Let us look at the political donations from a businessman's perspective, business owner's perspective. Now, we all know political donations is a part and parcel of doing business in this country or any other country. So from my perspective as a businessman, I don't mind donating to the political parties as long as those donations do not kill my business. Essentially, in my business model, I can always build in, let's say, 1% or 0.5% of revenues as costs towards such donations. Now, let's look at data. Let's look at how a few top donors' financials, and let's try and figure out if they tell us some sort of a story. So, what I did was, I downloaded the data from the ECI website. I simply put a pivot saying top donors, and it gave me a list of donors across years from 2019 till 2024. Since 2024 financial numbers are not available for most of the companies, we restricted it to 2023. So we got a list of companies who donated right from 2019 to 2023. Then we filtered it again. We said top 10% of the donors. That gave me a list. And then we filtered it again, saying that donors who have donated in at least 4 of the 5 years. So that essentially gave me names of 4 to 5 companies for which the revenue and the profitability data is available in the public domain. The largest donor in all of this was a company called Future Gaming and Hotel Services, Martin Santiago. A lot has been written on him, but I couldn't really find any financial data in the public domain. So what we did was then we took out companies for which financial data was available in the public domain, whether listed or unlisted. And then we tried linking their financial performance with their political donations. The results are very, very interesting. Let me quickly present it to you. Now, Megha Engineering was one of the companies, in addition to Future Gaming and Hotel Services, which was on the news, saying that it was one of the top donors, right? So let's look at the financials, the donations done, and let's reach some conclusions. So what we did was we simply looked at the data available in the public domain. From that, we figured out the turnover and the PAT, profit after tax, of the company. And then we looked at the donations as a percentage of turnover and as a percentage of the profitability of the company. Now, in case of Megha Engineering, as a percentage of turnover, the amount donated to political parties ranges between 0.3% to 1.3% of the turnover. So Megha Engineering, for example, in the year 2023, its turnover was 31,000 crores and it donated a total of 415 crores, which works out to 1.3% of the turnover. Same in the year 2022, its turnover was 28,800 crores and it donated an amount of 78 crores, which worked out to a donation of 0.3% of the turnover. Now, when I look at it as a businessman, I feel it's fine. It's nothing out of ordinary. It's making money. It's making profits. And Megha Engineering as a company has really put this in as a cost of doing business. So for me, as such, Megha Engineering donating so much money does not really raise any red flags. Now, let's also consider what percentage of profits did it give away as donations. Now, that amount ranges between a low of 1.2% of profits to a high of 14% of profits. Now, 2023, when it reached an all-time high of 14%, we can attribute it to 2024 being an election year, that political parties want support in the election year, and I'm sure every political party across the spectrum must have approached them for support. And Megha Engineering did support every political party. It is donated to every party possible. But in a non-election year, the same amount ranges from anywhere between 1.2% to 3% and 8% of the profits. So essentially, if I average it out, it works out to roughly 5-6% of profits donated to political parties every single year. Now, as a business, am I okay donating 5% to political parties? Now, CSR rules itself mandate that I donate 2%. If I'm donating 5% to political parties and it means that my businesses have to function without any hitch, why not? We did similar analysis for 4 or 5 more companies, including in the top 10, of course, including SL Mining and Industries, including Haldia Energy, including Vedanta Limited, and including Torrent Power. Now, the results are very interesting, except for Haldia Energy Limited. Every other company donated between 0.1% to 0.7% of its turnover to political parties through electoral bonds. So, from what I can see, it's a cost they've built into their business model, and it's fine. Donating that much is fine. But in case of Haldia Energy, from 2021 onwards, earlier it was less than 1%, but 2021, 22 and 23, it is more than 4% every single year. Now, as a businessman, I can tell you that a cost of 4% every single year of your turnover is not sustainable over the long run towards political donations. A business margins are never so healthy that I have to give away 4% of my turnover as political donations. So, is there something more to Haldia Energy's donations than what meets the eye? We'll get to it in a bit. Now, we did a similar exercise for donations as a percentage of profitability. Now, in that case also, from what I can see, except for Haldia Energy Limited, all the other companies donated between 0.5% to 5% of its profits towards political donations. But in case of Haldia Energy, the political donations in last 3 years was 30%, 25% and 47% of its profit after tax. Is it sustainable or is there more to it? So, that's a question which we have to answer. So, amongst the 4-5 large companies, top donors, it is only Haldia Energy which stands out in terms of the quantum of donations when compared to its business. Every other company, it's anywhere between 0.5% to 1% of sales, and it's anywhere between 0.5% to 5% of its annual profits as donations. But Haldia Energy is an outlier. Are there reasons behind it? Well, I'm a data guy, so I started digging. So realized a few things. One, Haldia Energy, the company itself is based in West Bengal and is very, very dependent on the Bengal government for offtake of power. With all the happenings of TMC leaders, I will not name them, in terms of land grabbing, in terms of power play, in terms of everything else. And Haldia Energy being in Bengal and dependent on the government. Right? So the conclusions are fairly easy to draw. What gave me more credence or more support to my thought process that it is because it is in Bengal and the ruling part dependent on the ruling government there for its business, for its collections, was this statement from its credit rating. I will read it verbatim. It says, the company has witnessed delay in receipt of tariff order and true-up order from WBERC, the regulator in the past. True-up orders of HEL are yet to be rolled out by WBERC since its commercial operation date. The gross under recovery in its power and fuel charges as per its books of accounts increased substantially to 685 crores as on March 31st, 2023. Last year, the same number was 467 crores. So, the under recovery of 685 crores in 2023 and the political donations of 115 crores, which in itself is 47% of its PAT for the year. Wow, that clearly looks like political pressure. That clearly looks like hafta, speed money. One more point to note here is, why do other corporates don't go to West Bengal? Tata's left West Bengal. We all know the story of what happened with Aditya Birla's founder in West Bengal, how he was treated before he left West Bengal for good. And now this. So is it the case of the West Bengal government and TMC trying to extract the maximum pound of flesh? I do not know. But surely looks like it. Overall, in the larger scheme of things, BJP got the most amount of money, but BJP has the most amount of political seats also. But at the same time, I do not see the donations as unreasonable amounts. Less than 1% of turnover, less than 5% of profits is acceptable as a businessman to me. But 50% of profits or 25-30% of profits is not an acceptable amount. The conclusion is, electoral bonds as such, from my reading is, none of us are surprised in terms of what they mean and what they represent. Yes, there are a few outliers like the gaming company of Martin Santiago, which has donated an amount in excess of its profit and in excess of its turnover. Megha Engineering has donated large amounts, but when we compare it to its business, it's fine. It's acceptable levels. It's less than 5% of its profits. But something like an Haldia Energy, which is donating anywhere between 25 and 50% of its profits to these parties, is suspect. As investors, a Haldia Energy donating 25 to 50% is a red flag, serious red flag, and any other donations which are anywhere, let's say between 0.5% to 1% of turnover and less than 5% of profits, should not really bother us with our rest of the analysis. There is a lot more to read in the data here. Political issues aside, we can get a hint of which company, which state is good to do business, which state is not good to do business from this data. We can also figure out which businesses are dependent purely on the government for their day-to-day running and which businesses are much less dependent. With that, we will end this video. I believe electoral bonds should be made compulsory. I believe electoral bonds should be the only way for political parties to raise money. And I personally believe that donating to political parties is not that big a deal. It's a part of day-to-day running of business, and it should be looked at with that point of view. Thank you. I'll see you in the next video.